Hello everyone, thanks once again for joining me on the channel. We've got a lot of stuff to do to this Bronco. I need to get the AC system in, I need to get the dash wired up, all of the HVAC controls in, I need to button up a couple little things in the interior, but this does run and drive, it's back from exhaust, and it's also had its alignment. So in theory, I could get in this truck right now and drive it down the road at full speed. But there's a lot of loose ends, and I need to know how fast I'm going, and I should put bolts in the seat, and, you know, all the details. It has no lights, no brake lights. Speaking of brakes, there's a power brake booster that's on here that we've determined is a little too small. And in other trucks, when you Coyote swap them, you end up with a really tight fit between the top of the cylinder head and the brake booster. So I use the same one I always use, and it's been fine in other applications. But for some reason, this one just doesn't want to push as easy as it should. So I want better brake action, I want better pedal feel, and there's a couple other little things, but pretty much this thing is rounding the curve. Oh, if you're wondering what this is, don't worry about that. That's a whole different story. But anyway, I'm gonna fill you in on a couple of the other builds while we're going through some of this, and it is 8 degrees outside, which means if you stay outside too long, your face will freeze. I'm about to get started. I gotta clean up all the wiring. Let's get at it. We're gonna use some of that. We're gonna use all of this. Every piece of this gets put together. We're gonna use almost all of this. And this is the electronic shift. Everything has to get wired. So we're set up. Took the carpet out so we don't make any messes, and we can easily bury any wiring underneath. But basically the whole entire dashboard has to get wired, and we're doing that now. It also has to have all of this installed. And all of this is basically the complete HVAC system that hangs under the dash of a Bronco that has no air conditioning, meaning a stock Bronco that never came with air, which this one did at one time, but we removed all of that. And the reason that we removed it is you need the space for all of the new componentry. And in doing so, we now have to build the structure under the dash out of all of these kit parts, and it all goes in here. All goes in here. So this is all going to look very, very different. Those are the factory defrost ducts. Those are coming out. We have to put strengthening panels behind all of this. So there's probably a few days here. Getting there. We are getting there. All right, let's go. every wire has to be free from abrasion once it's all put together. Never mind getting them in the right place. Of course you got to do that, but I want to make sure they stay right where I leave them. Okay, so power to the ignition switch, power in accessory, power to the ignition system, and this is power to the fuse block in on and run. And then this is main power coming from the battery, which I will pass through this switch. And all of this gets really boring. And if I talk while I'm doing it, I'll blow a fuse. So let me get this and this in. Here's our OBD2, the code reader. That's going to go under there somewhere. We also have this awesome little bit of kit that I have to make a hole for. Looks like about 2.5 by 2. I have to make a hole for it because this is how you shift your transfer case electronically. Yeah, give me a second. Let me make this look like something and then we'll get right back to it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There seems to be a little controversy on the best way to solder wires. The first thing I do is I take a thick strand of wire and I cut the housing off of it and I get some of these hairs or rope, call it whatever you want. I twist a few of them up because you need them. You'll see in a second here, I just roll them, get them together so they're strong. And usable. So this is pretty much every freaking joint. I'm going to show you what you got to do. Now these, I pre-crimp and preheat shrink these. I need to make a 3-pronged connection. So rather than just twist these together and end up with this point where you can put a wire nut, but this ain't a house, so you don't need wire nuts. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can push them together like this and wrap them, or you can do what I'm doing. Never, I want to make clear, never solder wires together like this without some form of fastening. And the way that I get the fastening, because solder will dry out and get brittle over time and it'll just come apart. So what I do is I take a thick wire and I cut some of the strands out of it and I grab a few bristles or strands and I twist them up. Now this is with every connection that you do, unless it's really thin wire, and then you can get away with really thin wire, thinner than this. You can get away with this right here and just roll them together and hold them and solder them together, as long as they're twisted and they won't pull apart. So this is the way I do it. You can do it however you want, or if you got a better way, you let me know. But basically, I'm just gonna half-assed put these together, and then I take my strands and I leave a little for one side and I go all the way around it like that. Then I come over here and I do this side nice and tight. Bind them up real nice. And then I take this, and this is pretty much what you do for every single one. There's a lot of connections, hundreds in fact, when you wire a vehicle from scratch. So you get it good and hot, let the hot melting solder actually heat up and tin or preflux the wire. Make sure it's both sides. Sometimes it doesn't go all the way through. You got to flip it over. See, that's through, but I want to do it a little better. There you go. Cools pretty quick. But as you can see, there's a little strand. Chop that off. We'll use that later. Get your heat shrink tubing ready. This is going to end up being basically the plugs, the power plugs for the fan relay control that comes from the ECU. So this is basically what I'm doing. I'm kind of hustling through it, but there you go. So that's one. Here's the other one. I already did it. So basically we have these now that can go into the fans. We have dual fans, and then we're going to run these over to a relay. So, but I just wanted to show you how I solder stuff. And again, you can do it any way you want. That's just how I do it. And believe me, if you pull on these, you know what's going to break first? The wire, not the joint. The joint is the strongest point of the connection now. So I just want to make that clear. So I should have accessory, whatever is powered on the fuse block. When you turn accessory, which would be like radio, I actually wired the power steering to it. Say the truck doesn't start or something goofy, you can just click accessory and you'll have power steering. And then you have on, which powers everything. Then you have ignition or starter call. So off, accessory, on, run. And before I bury it, let's make sure, right? And we have this, which is turn signal, hazards, headlights. One of these is wipers, but we'll get to those in a minute. Each one basically goes just like that. You got to one at a time them and make sure that this sent power to the right circuit, this goes through a fuse, to the switch, out of the switch, to the thing. That's what all this is. Battery's connected. Now the fuel pump is not, so it's not going to start, but that's a good sign. Okay. I'm sure I've already tested the on, the run, and all of that. I've tested those, so I know that works. Okay, I'm gonna mount this. I can do this right now. That's it. I just showed you how to do big stranded wire. This is small stranded wire. So I'm going to slide my heat shrink tubing on there first. I'm going to take these, and again, you never want to clamp them together and solder them like that, because solder becomes brittle over time and it just comes apart. And then it's intermittent contact, which can drive you nuts in the future. So I like to say, put something together the way you would if you knew you were going to be the only person to ever service it ever again. So that way it ensures that if you come upon it yourself, you'll know that it was done well. And if someone else comes upon it, they won't have to second guess every single thing you did. So do it the way you would want it done for yourself. So what I do with these small ones, I take and cross them, I roll them over each other, and when you get to the end, you'll notice a little burr sticking out. You just get them as tight as you can by hand, and then slowly draw them apart enough to get that burr down and smooth like this. We're going to move all these other connections out of the way so you can see. But that's it, just like that. Then you solder them. all the way through. Let it cool a little bit. There you go. Slide your heat shrink over it. Good to go. All right, now do the rest of them. Then do that again over here, over here, over there, over there, over there. So. Headlight switch has a turn the interior lights on function, so you just go like that and it's on. So I'm set that to off, and as you can see up there, that light is on and the door is open. So right now, if I close the door, that light goes out. That's how it is on both sides. If you go open that door, the light will come on. You open the door, light's on. Now, close the door, and you want the interior light on. You turn the switch on the headlight to on, and you got it. So that's it. That's how it's done. Okay, this is a constant hot and a switched hot that we're going to use for this. This is a switched heater circuit that's going to power this. This pigtail I made up so that I can put this switch in, bolt all this together, leave this hanging down, and I got a diagram of that so I'll know how to hook this up. Because I have to build this circuit, which means one of these is a call for up, one's a call for down, one's power, one's ground, and it may switch internally. I have to figure that out, but I need to do it through a relay. You can't just run full-on power, because if something happens to the motor, it'll have full-on power and it'll burn. So you have to be very careful. I'm going to run it through a relay and obviously a fused circuit. I do need to get the glove box in, but I'm not doing that now until the AC is all put together and tested. I am going to run the ducts because I have these flexible ducts that are over here. You basically cut this to fit, and it goes to your 2 defrosters, which go to the top of that box, and then you have 4 others, which would be driver and passenger chest vent or dashboard vent, and then you'll have 2 that go to the floor to warm the feet. So I have to put the ductwork in. I have to mount these switches. That's the plan anyway. But the purpose of all of this was to get the dash buttoned up so I can put the interior together and drive this thing. That's where we're at. We gotta drive it. With the red light blinking on the camera, I'm about out of battery. Let's put that battery on and hit the switch. Park lights. And that still works. We're gonna run out of battery. We got a marker. We got a marker. Marker and marker. Headlights. All good there. Let's watch. Let's watch and see how our brights are doing. That's awesome. All right, that's it for today. Love it. Love it. Well, I just went in to dump all the footage off of the card that I have been accumulating over the last solid week, and I don't have it. I do not have the footage. The card is corrupt. So let's catch you up on what it looks like. Honestly, it looks fantastic. Everything is coming out really, really nice. We're gonna get it wired up the rest of the way so I can test drive it. I've moved it back and forth on the driveway to bed the brakes in, and that has helped. But I still got a lot to do. So Phone's ringing as usual. Here we go. All of the other footage that was lost was kind of like a progression through the wiring of the dash. And I know nobody really wants to see all of that because it's so tedious. But hang on a second, let me get some lights. I got this light in here for a reason. Obviously the sound system will be put in by a sound guy. That's a whole separate pile of work. And it's honestly, it's more specialized when you deal with crossovers and bass response and all that crap. So what I want to do is give you a little vision of what's here. So this gets mounted honestly in the console. It should be in the center in the console. It really shouldn't be on the dash because it kind of takes two hands to control it, and you should never operate that while this vehicle's moving, because if you put it in four-wheel low while you're going 70 miles an hour, you'll explode your transfer case. And I don't think this control will allow you to do it, but that's a chance I wouldn't take. I didn't build the control. But yeah, as you can see, there's the controller for it. There's the controller for it. And then I've powered it. But underneath, that's the controller for the digital dash. Over here we have, that's the oil sending unit that the tuner's going to put in. This is the rear glass wire that I need to run under the carpet along the side into the back. I'm gonna make it, normally they run it through a relay and they run it through the rear key so you can roll the window down from the outside, but this is an aftermarket tailgate and I don't know who put it together, and honestly I could spend 3 days on that. So the reality is I'm going to run power to it, so the window will go up and down from here only with the key on, and it's secure. You want to, open your door, put the key in and roll the window down. That's what you do. Unless you want to develop a different wire system like factory, I'll include the original diagram. But I wanted to show that this here, there was a lot of stuff. We still have to put the glove box in. This vent just arrived. But yeah, there's a lot to it. I just wanted to showcase some of that stuff. I just wrapped up the tail lights, the fuel sending wire, all the stuff that's underneath the back half of the truck. I got everything tied in and in loom and secured properly, and everything works. We have all blinkers, hazards, running lights. I gotta tell you, it's pretty satisfying. Over this past couple weeks, this has taken a long time to wire, and man, I don't know why this one, you know what, I think it's probably because I'm reusing all these fixtures and, saving. There's a lot of stuff that the painters are going to do, which they probably will replace these lights. But when it leaves my hands, all this stuff needs to work. I can't just go, oh, that's for someone else. No, you got to prove that your work is functioning. If somebody doesn't like the finish on the lights, they can buy new ones and tie them in. The power is there. It's wired correctly. You don't just randomly leave loose ends like that. There's always going to be a million ways to skin a cat. You put 10 electricians in the house, they're all going to wire it a little different, but at the end of the day it's going to work exactly the same, and that's what I was after. I'm telling you, it's a relief. Like, just getting to this point has really been arduous, but it's really satisfying. At this point right now, it's rewarding. Looking at it going, yeah, remember when it would barely run? I had to make the ignition system on the old distributor engine, This whole thing, it's fantastic. This morning is the time that I'm taking the truck out on the road. I'm gonna put some cameras on it, and I'm gonna hook up the mics and take it down the street. I put the battery on trickle charge for a few hours because yesterday I was running all kinds of power items without running the engine, and I don't like a half-assed battery, so but yeah, we're ready to go. Threw a towel down on the floor. We're going to cover that with plastic. We got all the lights working. We got a plate on it. Once it gets the full-size wheels, this thing's going to be awesome. It's going to get a full paint and glass and rubber. The interior detailed. The seals. Needs a bunch of seals because this will take on water. But man, it's brand new. This thing is brand new. We have to set the oil pressure. The tuner guys are going to do that, and dial in any of the settings like speedometer. Those aren't accurate right now, but my GoPro refuses to work today, and that really stinks because those are expensive. But what I'm going to do is drive with one hand and film a little bit like this. I'm pretty stoked. It runs, drives, shifts, stops. Sounds awesome. Once this thing gets back from the tuner and then hits paint, it's gonna be like $1,000,000, man. This thing's awesome. It's so cool. It's modernized, it's ready. 4-wheel disc, gears to match the 10-speed auto. It's ready. Take another look here before I clean it off. It's about where we're gonna have to leave it for today. We're gonna come visit this thing in the summer. We're gonna do a whole series on it, take it out on the road, see how it's handling, what it looks like. There's a lot of things going on in the channel right now. One, namely, being the little Subaru build. If you don't know what that is, go back and check that out. That was from like last week or something. That thing is amazing. It's an awesome little stick shift, all-wheel drive car. We've got a couple of new projects on the way. We've got a couple of old projects that are coming back for upgrades. And of course, we've got the green Harrow hauler that has its engine and transmission are in, it runs. We've got to get it moving under its own power. There's a handful of stuff yet to do with that. There's a car under a cover here. I wouldn't worry about that right now. That's got nothing to do with the channel at the moment. But this thing's rowdy as can be. Thanks as always for joining me on the channel. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. I'll see you soon.